listen, never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Get on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
You guessed it. What? Adam Ottavino. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
What am I going to say?
Well, there's no one I'd rather be talking to than Mr. Rob Bradford right now. So very exciting.
Yay. Yeah. Yay. Yeah, thank you for that. And let me just give you a tip of the chapeau and say, yes, right back at you. And Julian McWilliams, whose wife is getting ready to give birth any minute, but has decided to pass the time. He's going to be jumping on in a second. He just, much like Alex Bregman, he will also get paternity leave, I would imagine, from his new job at CBS Sports. Like when you had your kids, when did you have your kids?
The first one, she's October 2nd. Second one, September 22nd. And third one is April 28th.
So you were playing baseball when they were born.
Yes. So the first one I had Tommy John. So I was rehabbing during it. I still was with the team actually in Arizona. I took a red-eye flight home and made it in time for the birth. Second one was 2018, and I did not come home for the birth. We were we were also in Arizona, but we were in a dead heat for the division and wild card race and all that. So I did not come home. She doesn't know that yet, but I was not here for her birth. And then the third one, I did take the paternity leave. It was in New York, so I just went to the hospital, spent the night, saw my son get born, hung out for a little bit, and then I went back to the field. So I only missed like a day.
I'm trying to remember when the paternity leave thing started, because it definitely wasn't a thing. People would make up organizations. I remember this specifically. Organizations, in one case, I think it was Eric Hinsky. This is going back a ways, but where they said, yeah, he had to go home because his grandfather passed away, but his grandfather had passed away at least a month before. So they had to sort of finagle the system a little bit. But
I think that would have been the bereavement list.
That he was on the bereavement list became before the paternity list. So yeah, but you had the option of the paternity list your entire career, correct?
Yes. And, it's a tricky situation. You want to be there, but obviously there's some things that sometimes can make that a tough call. I remember Daniel Murphy getting killed for it in New York one year for going to the birth of one of his kids, and the Mets were in a race, and I think he had to justify that, which was, I thought, very interesting. But
really?
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who's lived on both sides of the spectrum where you chose not to see, I don't listen, let me backtrack. You didn't have the opportunity to see the birth of your second child. It must be tough. I mean, that must have been tough.
It was tough. I think if it was the first one, I probably wouldn't have missed it. I think my wife was the one that was, we had a lot of goals that year, 2018, and my wife was like, we're not stopping until you get those goals and hit those marks. And she was the one who kind of pushed it over the edge. Obviously, if she wanted me there, I would have been there. But
yeah, listen, happy wifey, happy lifey. That's just science. So
yeah, it was all good.
Oh, speaking of which, hold on. The person who basically has spawned this conversation, he said, hold on, Julian McWilliams is on. Yeah, I did. The closest I came was I was running the Boston Marathon for 1 year. My wife said, do you want to induce before or after? Because it landed. It was actually, it would have been, so 2022, 23 years as this is going to be played. So yeah. And I said after. And then I was the one in the hospital, limping around looking for sympathy with the medal around my neck. And they're saying, you get zero sympathy. That's it. Zero. So Julian. So
you hear me?
Julian, yes. What are you? Right. What are you? 80 years old? What's wrong with you? Yeah, I heard you the first. Yes, I heard you.
A lot going on.
Yeah. All right. Is it Julian C. Williams? Is that McWilliams? Is that your new
Charles. My middle name is Charles.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. Say hi to Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Julian, how you doing, man?
How's it going? Oh, you got a new setup.
He's back home.
I'm back home, so I'm in my office now. So I
Oh,
figured,
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has stellar Wi-Fi. You see his Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, where'd you get that thing hardwired?
What's funny is if we did this yesterday, I would have been in big trouble because the Wi-Fi was down in our whole area. But no, I just got Verizon Fios. I don't know,
Nice.
2 gigs or whatever it is. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure that Bluey is always available to be streamed at all
I
times.
know,
in this
dude.
house.
I know. Tell me about it. Rob doesn't live that life anymore. He's privileged.
Why? What life?
The kid life.
The little
yeah.
kid
No,
life.
we're talking about that. We're talking about kid life. And do you get your new job? We talk a lot about paternity leave, right?
Yeah.
Because you're about to give birth. Alex Bregman.
I'm about to give.
Are you much like what's the CBS Sports equivalent of an accomplishment and then going and seeing the birth of your child?
I think
Alex Bregman getting 5 hits and 2 home runs.
Yeah. Well, mine would just be
Doing this podcast.
doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Doing a hit later on today, acing that with CBS, and then wiping my daughter's ass. I guess that's the equivalent. Because Alex Bregman doesn't probably do a lot of that, huh? He probably gets away with that.
I don't know.
I mean, he probably doesn't. He probably doesn't have to. He's on the road all the time.
Well, we just went through Adam's progression of the 3 kids. He missed the second one because
Ooh, you have 3 kids now, Adam?
Yeah.
Boy, girl, 3 girls?
2 girls and a boy. Yeah,
Okay,
third one was a boy.
I got a boy on the way in a couple weeks.
but
It's
Adam
different.
was saying that like that.
I remember. I don't mean to cut you out. I remember when I had my first one, and I was telling Adam about right before the playoffs. You're like, oh man. And I was saying I was having a girl. You're like, oh man, girls are the best because I'm like, you're like I'm an even keel guy. Like I'm sort of more chill, down to earth, and kind of girls are just a little bit easier. So they fit your profile a little bit more.
I would
Fit your
say
pitch mix.
I would say so far that's rung true. I mean, my son is a little bit of a maniac at the moment. A lot of trucks, a lot of cars, a lot of throwing things at people.
Yeah.
But
okay.
we're getting there. We're getting there.
Let me
Do you
just
tell
tell you, parenting
do you-
never stops. It only changes.
Do you tell him to throw it as hard as he can?
Yeah, of course. But at the same time, not to bully his sisters, even though they're older than him. He still bullies them. So it's interesting. Yeah.
It's a great example when he becomes a major league player. Said, "How did you learn to throw?" I threw stuff at my sisters. Like, let's go. I was throwing these sweepers at my sister's head. It was great. It had a 20-inch vertical,
Yeah.
horizontal, whatever.
Nasty in the zone.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Congratulations to both of you for your children. So there's a few things I want to get to. First of all, Adam, before we get going, what are you doing? We have to get the update. What's going on?
Really nothing to report. Holding tight. All options are open. Well, not all options, but all options that I'm willing to consider are open, and just holding tight. We'll see what happens here. I came back home. I was in Florida doing my thing, but came back home for here, and we'll see what the next few days entails. But really, don't have anything to report.
Let me ask you this. I don't know, and this is an uncouth question, but you get paid now for the whole year, right? Because you're on the major league.
What?
Wait.
What?
No.
I signed a 45-day consent both times, so that means they're not on the hook for anything. They can release me at any time, and they're not on the hook for the rest of the way. So I got 4 days of pay so far this year, and that's it.
Can I ask you how much 4 days of pay is, please?
I was curious myself. I think it came down to I think it was like $5,000 a day before taxes. So call it 20 grand.
Does that include per diem?
No. I got I was in Detroit one day, so I got 1 day of road meal money, which was I don't know, 75, $120 maybe. And then I got some per diem in spring training. So you add it all together, maybe I'm at 25,000 for the year.
How much do you get? I'm sorry, again, that's very uncouth of me to
Pocket
ask.
watching.
Well, what do you say?
Pocket watching over
Yeah.
here.
Well,
all
I'm
good,
curious. This is the
I'm good.
thing. The fact that I honestly asked somebody this the other day, and they told me that you would get paid. But now I know you don't. So
No.
we're here to educate young minds. How much do you get paid in spring training? What's that like?
Spring training is like there's like the per diem plus the live out money, which teams do now because they don't anymore won't pay for the hotel. They just give you money to live out. I don't remember the exact amount, but you end up getting over $100 a day during that period, and I guess you're there for 40 days, so at least $4,000 for
But
spring.
you don't get a salary during that time?
No, you don't get paid salary during spring. You work for free in spring, really. It's kind of something that a lot of people don't know about. So
See,
there's some other things too. Like I got home 2 days ago and I got a pamphlet in the mail about if I wanted to opt into the insurance now that I'm an inactive player. That was automatically sent to my house because I wasn't on opening day roster this year. So then I was like, dang, like, do I have health insurance this year paid for? And I had to look into that. Turns out because I did play in the major leagues this year, I'm covered until next year opening day. And then I have, assuming I'm not playing at that point, I'll have to make a decision because once you opt out of the major league insurance plan, you can never get back in. So you have to make a pretty critical decision.
Why you aren't getting the whole ball of wax for a year by playing in the major leagues for a few days? By playing the major leagues for a few days, you do get insurance.
I do get my medical benefits, yes, which comes out to like $30,000 a year in terms of value. So yes, that was a big one.
Yeah.
How do the medical benefits work? Like, is it true you get like after a certain amount of service time, you get free lifetime benefits for your family?
After a certain amount of time, you have the option of opting into them. You still have to pay for them. And there's 3 different tracks. There's like an A plan, a B plan, a C plan. They all have different coverages for different prices. And you make a decision at that point. While you're playing, you're automatically in the highest plan, and the league takes care of that. So I've had that, for a while now. And it was a little jarring to get the package in the mail because I was like, oh, I have to think about this right now. What are we going to do with this? And then I texted some people and found out that it's a little premature. I don't have to worry about it for another year at least. So
do you have to so if say when you sign with another team, right? Like, does that insurance cut off? I don't know. I'm having insurance discussions. I'm just curious about it. Like, does the one that you opt into, say if you were to take that package, whatever does that cut off and then you automatically go back to the highest plan?
Well, now I literally don't have to make any decision until next year. Like from the moment you spend 1 day in the big leagues, you have 1 year of coverage from that moment. So I don't have to make any decisions until next year. But the way that that's funded, it's all centrally funded. Like all the owners pay in and all that stuff's paid out. So it doesn't matter what team you're on, you're all covered under the same thing.
Can you tell somebody has just undergone onboarding for his new job?
Yes.
Right, Julian?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get paid. Because a lot of companies now outsource stuff to their finances to other countries. So I'm talking to some freaking lady in India, and it's like, dude, I just want to just give you my routing number and my my account number. So then it's just like you're hearing every other day. I mean, we're grinding over here.
You know who else complained about that?
Who?
The Chilean miners.
Oh my gosh.
So I have one more question on that note. So 25 grand.
Yes.
What do you do with that? Is that like Ja Morant stripper money? Like what is it? I got tuition to pay. I got things to pay. I mean, obviously you add it onto one of the piles you got, whether it's the checking account or the investment account, whatever, but I don't look at it as just play money. I mean, at this point, I got another hopefully 50 plus years to live, so I got to figure out how to take care of everybody in this family, forever. So we'll see.
I believe in you. You will live in at least 50 years. This is an expert segue by me, by the way. The other day we were doing a WBC podcast off of the Judge announcement, and the subject came up about you get paid at WBC because because all these guys, you're playing for the love of baseball, but there must be some sort of financial carrot. So I texted my good friend Daniel Bard, and he thought it was, look at that.
She's gonna join us.
All
Perfect.
right.
That's quiet.
Are you upset? Are you upset that this is Julian's daughter just joined us? Say hello.
Say hi. Say hi, Peyton.
All right.
Hi.
Peyton, what do you
Yeah.
think about the opting into a health insurance plan?
You do get paid in the WBC, yes.
Yeah,
You
so
do.
but he
Yeah.
thought it was like 40 grand, something like that. Does that sound right?
It depends on how far you go, I believe. But yeah, I think that's about the maximum. Like
So
40
you
grand.
guys made it to the final, so you got almost the maximum.
Yeah, I think we got the maximum. I don't know that the winning team gets any more. I'm not sure.
But I just was like, this is a great conversation because it is. These people are playing and it's 40 grand it's fine, but it's not why you play. I mean, it's sort of like when I went to the indoor golf event by where you are in Jupiter, wherever that is.
Yeah,
And I'm like, how are they getting all these guys to play in this? And then you realize that the winning team gets 9 million. There's 3 guys, so they're getting like 3 million each. That's why they're there. WBC is not. That's not why you're there.
No, I mean, maybe if like I don't know, if you're in the minor leagues somewhere and you get to play for like Team Netherlands or something, you're looking forward to that money. That's going to double your salary, if not more.
That's true.
So, but
the Czech Republic UPS worker was definitely double. Yeah.
Yeah, but for obviously for Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, those guys, they're not thinking about the money when they're playing for USA.
All right. So speaking of which, Aaron Judge was named captain. There's 2 things that I want to talk about in regards to this. The WBC is that, I mean, you've obviously played with Judge about how he is as a captain because Adam, don't get me on my soapbox about captains in baseball. Don't get me going.
All right.
Because I think that captains in baseball, it takes such a unique individual, unique situation.
Sorry.
You take such a unique situation to justify being a captain in baseball because a baseball clubhouse is set up so uniquely where you have all different corners of the team, like the bullpen guys, the starting pitchers, the hitters, the utility guys, all of that. And just to say, hey, you're a leader, so slap a C on your chest, to me, like that's it. Maybe it's different with Judge. Maybe it's different. But I just like people will say, oh, that guy should be captain. I'm like, why? He can be a leader. You don't have to put it, you don't have to waste the money on the C on the chest. Thoughts?
I think that like when it comes to something like the WBC, I've been wondering why we need a captain for the teams. I think it's a little weird and made a little bit of an awkward situation almost between Judge and Trout there. But at the same time, like I just think it's the precedent set with each organization. The Yankees have had captains going back, so it makes sense that it's like an extra honor. But I was thinking about it with the Mets. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt about Lindor maybe being captain. Obviously, now you have Soto there. You have guys like Nimmo who feel like they're up there in terms of the pecking order of leadership in the clubhouse. So it's interesting how people tread lightly in some situations. Some teams decide to not go that route, and some teams are clearly okay with it. Veritek very famously wore the C in Boston.
Yeah, but I see that's the thing, Adam. Like I'm not crap. Like Veritek was a leader on that team, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't the guy who was going to stand in the middle of the room and say, everyone gather around, and everyone's like, holy mackerel. Like this is it. He led in his own way, much like on that team, Lowell led in his own way. Cora was a utility guy, led in his own way. Schilling was a pitcher, like all these things. So, and like you go back to when you played in WBC when Trout was a captain, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Did he get on a stool in the middle of the room and give the
Definitely
Rudy
not.
speech?
Definitely not. No, honestly, I think it's just it's more for the fans. It's an extra honor. I don't know that it changes how anybody goes about their business. I mean, maybe there's some more responsibilities that comes along with in certain organizations with being the captain, but you're right. I mean, leadership, there's different ways to go about it. It's not necessarily call everybody in the middle of the room and hold court. I think people lead in different ways. There's leaders by example. There's guys who do things behind the scenes, and it takes all different forms. So I mean, to get stamped in that way, I mean, I guess it would probably feel pretty cool, but I wonder if these guys who have been named captain felt like that, gave them more that they had to do, or if they can just continue to be themselves.
That's a great point. And
But
did it feel like when you were with the Yankees, did it feel like, because this is one, I will say this, Ortiz was never the captain, the Red Sox, but when he left, I remember talking to Mookie the next year, and he said, yeah, we're missing that because everything had to be passed through David. Like, David was hanging out until like but everything had to be passed through David. Was that the sort of the vibe with Judge?
No, not yet, because there was still CC was there and Gardner, and those two guys I thought were like kind of the made men of the group. I always kind of look at it like once you're past 10 years in the big leagues and you've been with a team for a long time, you're kind of like you're a little bit of you're a little bit like the Godfather. You're a little bit like a made man. People definitely have to run things by you. I mean, I've even been in that position. I'm certainly not, perennial all-star or anything like that, where before big decisions are made, they come and they run everything by you. A conversation, a sit down needs to happen before, some things go down, so to speak. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. I thought Judge was obviously ripe for leadership. It was obvious that he was one of the leaders of the team and going to take on an even bigger role as those guys retired. But at the time, it was kind of three people that seemed to be filling different leadership roles within the clubhouse.
Yeah, you see, perfect. You're making my point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you need to be on like standing in the middle of a room to be a leader, be a captain? Like though, like is that something that you need like that, or maybe not just doing it, but like the thought that like okay he could.
Yeah, well, that's what I think. That's what
yeah.
you said, right? I mean, that was the great point by you, Adam, is that you might not necessarily need, but you almost feel like, oh, do I have to?
Yeah, I mean, I there's different dynamics with every team. Like I've heard that, in the years that Adrian Beltre was with the Rangers, it was his clubhouse. Everything had to be run through him. I don't think he was ever given the captain title necessarily, exclusively and outright. But, there's, like I said, there's different ways to go about this, even different managers. A lot of managers like to have a lot of meetings. Some don't. I mean, they both work. It depends. You got to be who you are. I think some guys are naturally very good at addressing the room. Judge, I thought he's the type of guy that after a tough loss or after a big win, he does sometimes get in the middle of the room and say something. I think more than anything, though, the role of that guy, whether you're a captain or just like one of the leaders of the team, is just accessibility, really. It's how accessible you are to every single player on that team, whether they have one day in the show or 20. And you also are very comfortable being able to go to management and have open dialogue with them. And I think that's kind of their stamp to you a little bit when they name you captain. It's like, hey, you're one of us now, kind of in a way. Like you're invited into our room, your opinion matters, and you should feel free to come in here anytime and kind of, say your piece. And I think that's an interesting thing because they don't have to give anybody that stamp, but when they do, certainly, it changes the dynamic in the whole building a little bit, where there's somebody who is kind of in between the players and the front office.
And also with the media. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's put it this way. If you say, oh, there's a captain, and then all of a sudden that guy is not in these tough moments, is not stepping up, like Bogart's always used to, like every single time, right? Every single time. If you almost like you have to, because if you don't do that, it's blood in the water for the media saying, hey, I thought you were the captain, Yeah,
that's a valid point. I mean, I actually just didn't even think about that. But yes, certainly there's guys that the media's coming to after every game to talk and get their feeling. I've seen it everywhere I've been, and not everybody's been a captain going through that. But certainly that's a big part of it, because the things that you say kind of you are the voice of the locker room a little bit to the fans. And it's very important to make sure that you have somebody level-headed in that role.
Can I tell you this? So before, Julian, you go, but I just did a pod conversation with Dayton Moore, obviously longtime GM, and we were just talking about this, about how players, when they talk to the media, and he said, I've talked to my players to say this, is that you're not talking to that journalist. You're talking to the fans and you're talking to your teammates. That's who you're
100%.
talking to. And if you have to practice it in front of a mirror, you should do it. And I don't think a lot of guys understand that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. That's one of like, as somebody who feels like I got to a pretty good place with talking to the media during my career, I've had to pull people aside many times and say like, you're not talking to that reporter, you're talking to the fan base, and you're talking to your teammates, because everybody who reads that's taken that to heart, that follows this club, and just keeping that in mind, that that's who you're talking to. So when you're saying what you're saying, make sure you would be okay doing that, and right in front of everybody. So I just feel like, that's something that's learned sometimes. It's not as obvious because you do feel like you're just having a one-on-one sometimes in front of your locker, and maybe you lose sight of who you're really communicating with there.
That's where Julian sucks you into your web. It was just us talking, just us. Let me hide my tape recorder behind my back.
Yeah, well, no, I learned that when like I'm talking to kids, like when I was talking to high school students, high school players. When I was covering high school, it was like one of my editors was like, dude, like some of these kids get nervous by the recorder, so I used to just sometimes like not they knew I was recording, but like I would just hide it, like not just make it so they didn't see it, because the minute they look down, they see it, like you see their eyes like pop. I'm like, oh God, I'm screwed. I'm not getting anything from this interview, right? Like so.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I've had that. I do think that some reporters in the past that I've dealt with, they purposely are doing it where like, and a lot of times guys don't know. Like
No, I wouldn't do that.
No, but you say, as long as you identify, hey, listen, I don't necessarily have to stick this up your nostrils, but I'm recording.
Yeah. No, they know I'm recording. I just do it like I would just do it for like mainly like the younger guys, like because you just see them like their eyes just like sort of just light up, like, and they just don't say anything. So, I don't do it to be like conniving or anything like that. Obviously they know. So, I'm not trying to be a snake.
You got something, Julian?
No, I was curious though, like I was speaking to a writer. I think it was actually Thomas Harding again, who covers the Rockies. I think Adam, you probably know him. And he was like, and he said that we were talking about leaders, and he was like, don't get misconstrued. Like if a player is bad with you, that doesn't mean that's not necessarily a reflection of how his teammates sort of feel about him in that clubhouse. So like a lot of times people misconstrue, say, hey, like, I don't know how Xander was with like within those closed doors, but like Xander was great with us. But I think automatically we assume like, oh, he's the leader because he talks to us. And he's like, and so I think Thomas is sort of intimating like, hey, like it doesn't necessarily always work like that. There's people that are great with the media that aren't great with the teams. Have you ever experienced that with their teammates? Have you experienced that?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I think there are some people that I've played with that their mentality is it's the 26 guys in that room versus the world. And that's kind of a way to be a leader in and of itself, in a way. Like, this is our group. I'm going to protect you guys at all costs. And maybe they're a little icy with the media. I can see it going both ways, like where a guy, every single player feels like the leader in the room has their back and like is pulling on the same side of the rope. But at the same time, maybe to the public, that person looks a little icy because it's just not what he's trying to accomplish.
Right.
So, I mean, there's different ways to go about it. So I have seen that dynamic before. I don't necessarily think it works the best because, again, like if you're icy with a reporter, you're really being icy to the fan base. So I do think
it is so true. Like I'm so glad you said it and Dayton said it, because honestly, like that's such a good when they get everybody together to have media training or whatever, I hope they say that, because I think, to your point, like I don't think some guys understand that they're talking to not only the fan base, they're talking to their teammates, especially now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We've gotten as an industry, we've gotten so much better with the media training. I know that it might not feel that way, but the guys are getting way better training than they used to get. The stops I've been, Boston, New York, both New Yorks, I thought did a great job. And also, they have players who they think do a good job, get up in the room and kind of, I've done it before, kind of talked a little bit about what you're trying to do when you're talking to the media and what you're trying to avoid and stuff like that. And I think the hardest part is when you're a young player. When you're a young player, you haven't maybe put your foot in your mouth yet, or you haven't maybe made some of the obvious mistakes that help inform your strategy in terms of talking to the media. So even though you have the training, sometimes, experience is the best teacher in that regard. But I think the teams have gotten a lot better at putting their best foot forward in terms of what the teaching is.
Well, speaking of Judge, this is another expert segue by me. They came up about Soto talking about needing the presence of Judge and everything else. And I know, Julian, you wanted to talk a little bit about this, but I'm just going to kick it off. Adam, I say, like, you don't run isolations for outfielders. That's why you got to be careful by allocating all the resources to one player in baseball, because, as we've seen with Trout with the Angels, it doesn't necessarily work that way. But I think there's two examples where it come the closest. It's having a stud starting pitcher, where you're going to protect the bullpen the day before, the day of, and the day after. And then the middle of the order presence. We saw that early on with the Red Sox, with Devers was really, really struggling, what that looked like, how that could be detrimental. Conversely, we also saw in the World Series, where we were reminded at a very high level with the Dodgers and the Yankees, everything is amped up toward these guys. It's the Mookie, the Freeman, the Ohtani, the Judge, the Sotos, and in that point, the Stantons. I'm just curious from your perspective, as a pitcher, not only facing these guys, but sort of playing along with it. Like, what a difference that guy is. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if we're going to say we're going to prioritize spots on a team, players on a team, it is having that guy where you have to get through, and everything you lead up to it is revolving around. I probably did a terrible job of articulating that, but so be it.
I think that it's the same difference of, like, you have a great player, and it's simply just a matter of, would you rather have a great player or not have a great player? Like, when you have a truly great player, you're always aware of where they are in the order. I had a save a couple years ago when I was with the Red Sox where Ohtani wasn't playing in the game. We're facing the Angels, and he was going to pinch hit. And I was very aware of when he might pinch hit. And, even though he's not even in the game yet, you're aware of the possibility of him coming in there. And you're hoping that maybe you have an open base if it comes down to it. Obviously, they're trying to insert him in the right moment where there's nowhere to put him. So that just goes to show you right there, like, you're always hyper aware. It's like when you're facing the Dodgers and you get down to the bottom of the order, you want to put extra emphasis there's extra pressure on you to get the bottom of the order out before the lineup flips over and it's Ohtani, Mookie, and Freddie again. There's just no doubt that having those great players changes everything. And you are very aware as a pitcher of who they are and when they're coming up. And I've been in plenty of meetings where it's like, we're going to go ahead and attack everybody on this team, but if the spot comes up, we are not getting beat by Goldschmidt. We are not getting beat by Posey, right? And that's just the reality of having a great player. And I think in a little bit of the Judge Soto stuff, it's like they had two of them back to back, and you can't avoid both of them, because if you walk one, you're facing the other. Sometimes if there's just the one, you're hyper aware of them, but you'll find a way to kind of dance around that guy. So I do think having multiple great guys in the middle kind of changes exponentially.
Who is the one player, you said that, you hear that, though, don't pitch to this guy or pitch around him. Who is the one player that got the ultimate Bonds treatment for you? Do you remember? They like, hey, listen, guys, here's a scouting report. We're not only pitching around him. I mean, we're not coming anywhere near him. He's that good, or he's that locked in.
I mean, it's been all the superstars over the years, because it depends on how hot they are. Like, I remember we played the Yankees last season with the Mets, and Judge was on an absolute tear at the moment. Like, he was probably 1,400 OPS for like a 2-month span, and that was the conversation. Like, once, because he's hitting behind Soto, so it's like, if you get to Judge, and I don't care what the scenario is, like, we're going to be careful here. So that's one that definitely stands out. Joey Votto at one point was kind of the Lone Ranger going with the Reds, and he was playing great, and it was kind of like, we're just not letting him beat us. Like, if we have to walk him 4 or 5 times, we will. I think it also helps when the guy's not particularly fast. If it's a leadoff hitter, it's tricky. Then it becomes tricky, because it's like, if you pitch around this guy, he's on base, he's on second base in one pitch, and that's what makes Ohtani even tougher. But yeah, I mean, there's been some guys over the years. Those two definitely stand out, along with like Nelson Cruz, maybe when he was going at his best. That is another one that I think there was times where it's like it's just a no-fly zone. Everything he's hitting is going over the fence.
So when Judge and because I know obviously Soto came out and said, hey, it's different now that he doesn't have a Judge behind him, which is kind of like I'm like, dang, but you have like all these other studs.
Yeah.
Do you feel it though as a pitcher? Like, do you when you have those two guys back to back? I guess my question is line of protection real?
I think so. I think it's real. You don't have to look any further than to 2021. Yankees had all those righties in the lineup that were home run and strikeout guys, right? There was Stanton, there was Judge, there was Voit, there was Glaber, there was Sanchez, and they didn't really have anybody to break up that train. And it did become, for a while, I think, a little easier to attack that lineup because it's like if you're in a bad count, you can kind of move on to the next guy. And if you're in an advantage count, you can probably strike that guy out. So it's almost like within the at-bat, you could kind of pass the baton to the next at-bat. You're always looking in the on-deck circle like, okay, I can get that guy, and this guy's not going to steal off me. So that whole year we were playing the Yankees, it was kind of you're kind of trying to pick your poison, but like in a good way for the pitching. You didn't really have to worry about a totally different dimension coming up behind Judge, like power, lefty, speed, and all that stuff. And I think to the Yankees' credit, they've gotten a lot more diversified since then. But I think lineup protection's huge. I don't love Soto's comments just because it's like Pete Alonso's playing unbelievable and he's hitting behind him right now. And you're talking to your teammates in that situation. And I just didn't love that comment, but I get where he's coming from a little bit. I mean, of course it's a little different. Judge had a 1100 OPS last year. So of course you're going to get a few more pitches to hit, but I mean, it's nothing to complain about. You just get some more walks and nothing you can do. That's baseball.
It just speaks to exactly what we were talking about, how you're speaking to your teammates. And an example that pops to mind immediately, 2014, I sat in the dugout with David Ortiz, and they had lost some guys, and they were taking a flyer on Grady Sizemore. Maybe that's 2015, but he kept saying, Ortiz kept wanting Nelson Cruz. Every year he wanted Nelson Cruz. We need Nelson Cruz. We need the Thunder. We need the Thunder, right? And then saying basically he didn't have guys to hit behind him. And boy, I showed up in Fort Myers next day. Pedroia was, woo.
Yeah.
Pedroia, Farrell, Napoli, they were all on fire, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, it all matters. The depth of your lineup is huge. It's just huge. If you have to go after every single guy, you're going to get in some sticky situations. You're going to be 2-0 to Soto and you're going to have to give in and throw strikes. You're not going to be able to just put them on and keep it moving because now you're looking at maybe a 2-run home run next, and so all that goes into your mind. And I know that analytically some of this stuff's tried to be disproven, but I know what it's like to be on the rubber and understand who's on deck. And that does, change your decision-making a little bit for sure.
What would you say is like a lineup that you faced that sort of encompassed like all of those things in one, where you're like, oh, I gotta go through the fast guy, the guy who has a little bit of power, but he has speed on the bases, he'd be on second. The power guy like Judge, yeah, she strikes out, but he hits like 50, 60 homers a year. The great bat to ball guys. Like what would you say like is a lineup like that reminded you of that of like in your career?
I mean, you could pick a Dodgers lineup, honestly. I mean, from 2017, 17, 18, 19, all those years, the Dodgers, I mean, especially before the September rosters got shrunk down, you go play a Dodger team in September, it was an absolute nightmare because they had two full lineups, one that was basically all-star righties, one that was basically all-star lefties. They had speed guys off the bench. So a guy like me would come in the game down the stretch with a one-run lead, and the three scheduled hitters would maybe be Turner, Chris Taylor, and let's say Hanley Ramirez or something, just for argument, three righties. And then I would come in the game and I would get Cody Bellinger, Jock Peterson, Yasmani Grandal, I get all these Chase Utley lefties just off the bench, ready to go at this exact moment. Like they have an answer. They have an answer for everything. Oh, you get 2 outs, then you face the third hitter, nobody on, and you give up a single, and now they're pinch running like a Terrence Gore all of a sudden. So it's like, it's a team like that just has unbelievable depth and variety of style that is so hard to face. Like, whatever your weakness is, they're going to attack that. And so those Dodger teams super duper stand out to me as I'm sure it was like the Yankees back in the day when they had the infield with like, A-Rod, Cano,
Yeah.
Jeter, Teixeira. I mean,
Oh,
it's just the depth of it, the depth of it is just like there's no break to it. And, crooked numbers, big innings are what kill you in baseball. And, the more that you're trying to not give in and, keep that zero on the board. Now you got 2 guys on, 3 guys on, but you're still facing an all-star caliber hitter. One swing of the bat's 3-4 runs. You can't play that game as much. You got to play it more straight and be like, if they nick me here, nick me there, I live to fight another inning. But the depth really kills you.
I was watching the documentary on the World Series from last year, and Dave Roberts doesn't take. It made me think because you're talking about. I know what it's like to stand on that mound, and that's the feeling. And so remember when they didn't take out Trinan, in that World Series game, and he said he went out. And he did the thing. First of all, he comes out. Dave Roberts is like, "I'm not taking you out. Not taking you out," which I thought was a good move by him. He said, "This is your last batter. Okay, this is your last batter." But he gets it's a 1-pitch at bat. So now he's literally on the top step. And he says in the documentary, I'm looking over at Freddie Freeman, and I'm asking, and I'm trying to get the affirmation from Freddie Freeman, who knows what it's like standing on that field. He knows how he feels about this, and like that is the thing. When you're standing on the field, is exactly what you said, Adam, which is there are some things which, as Dave Roberts showed, like he wasn't always that way. But man, I thought that was awesome. So
I loved it because sometimes you just got to say, you know what, I trust my pitcher. Like this is our guy. I'm winning or losing with this guy. He's earned it to this point. I know this might not be the optimal matchup. Maybe he's 35 pitches in, but season on the line, I'm going to ride with my guy here. And Trinan was that guy for them last year. So I thought it was a good move and it paid off.
Yeah. All right. I got one more thing. Julian, you got anything? Sorry if you don't. Let me.
I was just thinking of another lineup that I remember 2016 Orioles. We went to Camden Yards. I know this might sound crazy, but it felt like every hitter in their lineup was a pain in the neck. There was Markakis, Adam Jones, Chris Davis.
Markakis.
I mean, Machado, Scope. Every guy they had was a pain in the butt. And it was just like, it was unlimited. Like, it never ended. Like, until maybe the 9-hole was like J.J. Hardy or something. And he's like a great player that you don't want to face with guys on base. So that was another one that I just remember. Like,
let me give you the lineup. Let me give you the lineup.
I have it right here.
Wieters.
Yep.
Sports Illustrated cover guy. Chris Davis.
Yep.
Scope, like you said. J.J. Hardy. Machado.
Yep.
Adam Jones. Trumbo.
Yep. And Markakis.
Where's Markakis?
I definitely faced him. I want to say 2016.
Yeah.
Unless he was already in Atlanta, but I think I faced him that year.
Mancini.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, like it was just deep. Like they're not all Hall of Famers, but some of them are, and I felt like the rest are in the Hall of Very Good. So it was a battle. Plus in that ballpark too. Like I just remember I pitched like 2 innings in a game there with the Rockies. Felt like I gave every pitch, everything I had, and did well. But it was like, man, like that was a battle. Like when are they going to have a bad hitter? Every single guy is amazing.
It's also with that
fence,
the fence that it used to be. Now they're trying to play both sides. But yeah. All right. My last thing is the early season panic. And I want it from your perspective, Adam. And I want it from your perspective, Julian. We're 3 weeks in. In. And so everyone in baseball, you have to react knowing that the next day the narrative might change completely. No, certainly in the next week, the narrative is going to change completely. But you also probably, Adam, have a vibe if in the first 3 weeks of the way things are going. Not to say that you can't turn it around, but you're like, oh man, this isn't happening. I mean, like for instance, when the Red Sox get beat 16-1 in Tampa, that's not how you were drawing it up coming out of Fort Myers. So what is for you, what does the first 3 weeks of a season mean in terms of just not overreacting or appropriately reacting?
I think the stuff that we get to see, like us as fans and watching the games, I think it means zero. I think right now you could be playing terrible as a team and you can turn it around like the Mets last season. You could be playing great. You could go in the tank later. And there's so much to go. I think individually you could be kicking butt like Pete is right now, Alonso, and you're trying to ride that high the rest of the way. You could be doing lousy like some guys are, and that kind of kicks you into gear. And maybe you can be lights out the rest of the way. I think from those perspectives, like the results so far mean nothing. I think as a player, what I would always look at this time of year was the vibe. And I know that that's a very mysterious word or whatever, but if the team is down in the dumps and they're not going about things the right way, then yeah, maybe there is reason to panic. But that's nothing that the fans are going to notice. And if the team is having a good atmosphere in there and resilient and going about the process the right way every day, I mean, you could be where the Braves are right now and I wouldn't be panicking. So to me, it means zero in the big picture. But, the stuff that matters right now is all being taken care of behind the scenes. And that's why you have managers and coaches and leaders and stuff like that.
Because you guys didn't get off to a good start last year.
I mean, we were 0-5. I mean, we were one of the worst teams I've ever played on probably through May.
Sky was falling too, man.
Sky was falling. Nobody was coming. People were calling the team pathetic. And they weren't wrong, but there was still 4 more months, 2/3 of the season left, and the team goes all the way to the NLCS. And a lot of that was because of, I think, the atmosphere within the clubhouse allowed for that to take place. I think if it had been toxic and really, really, really bad within the walls, I think real panic would have been justified. But we didn't have any of that. And that's something that I think from a fan's perspective, you're not going to really know. And you're going to worry about the here and now, obviously. But what's today, April 16th, April 17th? I mean, there's so many baseball games left.
When do you start to hit the panic button? Like, when is it not panic, but like, for lack of better, when do you start like, like, we better get our act together?
Well, the big one is the trade deadline, because it seems like you have all this time, but by the time you get to like month 3, so mid-June, that you're about a month and change away from the trade deadline, and that's when the organization's going to make some decisions. 2023 with the Mets, we didn't panic until probably around then, mid-June, and you're like, boy, like if we don't start winning and get our playoff odds, probabilities up, the organization's going to start making some moves that we don't want to see. So it's not a panic, but it's like a sense of urgency. Like we got to start winning, and obviously we didn't do that year, and change was made. So that's the thing. You don't have the full 6 months, but you also can't worry in April either. I think, mid-June, I guess, is about the time that I would start worrying a little bit.
You know who I credit for your even keel, getting out of that funk? The always affable John Gibbons.
Great guy.
Gibby. There's anyone. He just oozes even keel. Let's go. Bench coach, Mets. Yeah.
I think if you're a manager, even keel has got to be, it's got to be who you are for the most part. The days of riding the roller coaster as a manager, I don't think that plays.
But we saw that. That's what I said the other day. The aforementioned 16-1 loss, Cora comes out after that game and kind of for him is like fire and brimstone. But I didn't, and Julian, you can back me up on this. I couldn't remember him doing that. The last time I remember was 2019 when they get off to a terrible start to begin the year. Like it was in Oakland, where after the game, he's like, enough is enough. So
yeah.
You can go about it that way for sure. He knows the temperature of the room. So, that's his job. His job is to know when to use the stick and when to use the carrot, right? So if he felt something that he needed to step up, whether it's the focus or the attitude or the effort, then that's what he should be doing. So again, every team is a little different. And I think that's really the job number one of the manager, is to understand the humans in the room and to, push the right buttons from there.
Well, speaking of humans, Julian, congratulations on your impending birth.
Yes.
Baseball isn't boring. Onesies on the way.
All right. Let's go.
But thank you to both of you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.